Well, I want to welcome everybody to this simulation hangout. Today's going to be a little different format than we've done in the past. And today we're actually just going to be covering how to actually work with the Autodesk support team, the resources that are available, best practices when logging cases, and also just some general non-product specific troubleshooting tips that hopefully will help you out. Before we really get going though, I had some poll questions that I'd like to have everybody respond to if you have a moment. Normally we do this before we really start, but trying something a little different. So the first poll question is, how did you learn about this session? Okay. Most people probably going to be direct emails, but we also post to the forums, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of different places in social media. And we ask this question really because we want to see how successful those different venues actually work. So I'll just let this go for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, so just so you know, 97% direct email, and then a few from the forums. The next question is very simple. What product do you use? CFD, mechanical, Moldflow, composites, or some other simulation or Autodesk product? It's kind of a tie right now between CFD and Moldflow. A few others have joined, which is great. Welcome. Mechanical's catching up. Excellent, thanks. Very even split, actually. About nearly 50% of the people in attendance use Moldflow or CFD, and there's about 40% that use mechanical. Next one's simple. Have you been here before, or you've only watched online previously? Great. So we have about 40% of the people in attendance never been here before, so welcome. And about 10% actually have only watched online. So it's good to hear that you've actually seen them and have joined in a live session. Next is a simple question. You may not even know the answer. Are you actively a customer of ours? Are you an employee? Are you actually one of our resellers joining in to see the activity? Or maybe it's a little complicated. Maybe your relationship with Autodesk hasn't been stellar in the past, and that's fine. Okay, so about 3/4 of the people joining are active subscribing customers, which is great. Thank you. Lastly, what resources do you use? This is really getting more about what we're talking about today. Are you somebody that calls into one of us and talks to us? Are you creating cases online? Do you primarily just use the help documentation to get your help and you really don't reach out to us directly? Or do you talk to your partners or just discuss in the forums? Excellent. I want to thank everybody for responding to those polls. So for those that have never joined a Hangout session before, or I guess if you've even watched online, you kind of know what's going on at this point. Really what these are a time for the support team to try to reach out to you. And we will present on some sort of topic, usually for about 20 to 30 minutes, mixture of PowerPoint, product demo, workflow types of things. And after that, we really open up the floor for questions. The questions are submitted through the GoToWebinar application. You can type in your question, and our entire team is behind the scenes actively responding to those questions. If it's a question that we think really is interesting and a lot of people can gain from that, we'll talk about that online. For instance, today, as we're talking about how to work with support, maybe you might want to ask, can you demonstrate how to log a case online? Or I've never been to the forums. Who's on the forums? And we can talk about a little more about. We can look at the forums and actually talk about some of the names of the people that post. But as you can see here, we've been doing this for a while now, and it started off with a CFD, sort of like a pilot within our little organization. And now in the past couple of months, we've grown to also include mold flow, mechanical, and composites. You can see in the bold are kind of the up-and-coming sessions. So next week, I'll actually be talking about API programming with the CFD software. All of these are recorded and posted to YouTube for easy access for most people. And they're under the Autodesk Sim 360 channel within the Simulation Support Hangouts playlist. And if you really like this PowerPoint today, you can follow the link that is down below. Take a screenshot right now. You can easily type it in. Or we can even type it in within the chat program if necessary, if you need it. So today's agenda is pretty simple, and hopefully at the end we do get a lot of questions that we can respond to. We're going to introduce the support team. Caitlin will be doing that, followed by some of the self-help material, and then going into logging a case and what to include, best practices really of what allows us, empowers us to help you as quickly as possible. And then some non-technical support questions, and then we'll go to Q&A from there.
Thanks, Royce. For those of you who don't know, my name is Caitlin, and more commonly I support simulation mold flow. However, I am now fully trained in CFD. So for those of you who call in or submit cases online, you might start to hear from me more often. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the simulation team that we have on this call. This isn't just everybody who supports mold or who supports simulation. Sorry about that. So you just heard from Royce. He supports CFD. We also have Marwan and John Wild who support CFD, as well as myself. For mold flow, you have myself and Kristen and Paul. And then you have, for mechanical, you have Marwan, James, Dean, and Andrew. And then lastly, we have Dean, who supports composites. During this webinar, you'll also be hearing from Kristen and Andrew. So as you may know, many engineers don't actually like to reach out for help initially. We like to solve our issues on our own first. So for this, we offer various online self-help resources, which are listed below. New to Autodesk is a platform that we call the Autodesk Knowledge Network, or you might hear us call it AKN. You can search either through knowledge.autodesk.com, or if you search through Google, you'll typically find the results from the AKN there. Searching the Knowledge Network searches through blogs, tutorials, online help document, and anything really found in the Autodesk.com website. We also offer online help. Here you'll find the online help system for each product, which includes different learning guides, best practices, installation guides, how to read results, and so forth. Many of you probably know about the forums. This is an active community for advanced and new users. Here at Autodesk, those who are active in it are the support team, so everybody on this call, in addition to the product managers for each product, and developers are also active on the forums to answer questions and post information. We post information for Hangouts, when products are being released, and so forth. And then lastly, we have the Sim Hub. This also lists many events that are hosted by Autodesk, such as user groups, and which for the user groups who you don't know, it just helps you become more active in the community. And then the difference between Autodesk Sim Hub and the Knowledge Network is the Sim Hub is tailored specific for simulation products, whereas the Knowledge Network offers information for every product that Autodesk has. So next we'll just touch on some quick troubleshooting steps. So here we have legacy known issues. If you're trying to reproduce an issue in the latest version of the software. So an example of this would be if you have a documented workflow and it isn't working. If you're using several releases back or even one release back, but you're not able to reproduce it in the newest version, then chances are that it's already been fixed. Also, we have hardware-specific issues. If you're running into issues where your computer is crashing, or your software is crashing rather, or a simple simulation isn't functioning, these are some of the steps that we would take. The most important thing is to really look at the background applications, such as firewalls or virus scanners. We find that larger corporations have a big brother type software that monitors employee activity, and sometimes that this can cause an interference between the software communication and the computer or hardware. Lastly, if you're running it on a network drive and you're trying, we would suggest that you try running locally. This will tell you if it's a network issue or not. One thing that we do here at Autodesk is I know a lot of us keep our task manager open. This tells you what programs are running in the background that you may not be aware of that could be slowing down your machine or your software. It also tells you if you're running a large analysis, if you're running out of resources. And then you can always try using another computer too. So next up, we will I'll hand the presentation off to Kristen, and then she will be discussing case creation.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone. As Kate mentioned, I would like to just discuss a little bit about how to actually open a support case that comes to us, the support team. And then after I discuss that a little bit, I'll pass it over to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit more about how to best document cases and issues in those cases that you create. Okay. Most of you indicated that you are subscription customers, so you do have access to online support. In this case, what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through how to log that case on the support or subscription center. Excuse me. Once you log into the subscription center, you're first going to navigate to the technical product support page. And from there, that's where you can actually create a case or else check on any other cases that you might have opened or any previous cases that you've recently closed. So once you get the technical to the technical product support page, that's where you want to enter in all the product information, such as the version of the software you're using, any environmental information like your operating system. And this information really helps us to determine if maybe it's product specific to an issue that's related to a certain operating system, or if your operating system might not be supported. Now, listed there is actually a link to how to access the subscription center and technical support. So once we finish up this presentation and post it to that website Royce mentioned, you can go ahead and click on the link below there, and that'll direct you to a page that can also give you some more information on that. One option whenever you do fill out an online support case is to assign a severity to the case. Now, this is often kind of overlooked sometimes by customers logging cases where they're on a time schedule and they really need an answer, and they mark it as severity 1. This isn't typically the correct way in doing it. A severity 1 case would be complete failure of the software where you wouldn't be able to, say, even open the product up. If you are experiencing that, then that's when you would want to mark a severity 1 case. Now, a severity 2 case would be when you're seeing some functionality issues where, say, your software isn't meshing or something's not working right in the software. And there might be a workaround that you're able to do, but it's impacting your workflow where you're not able to flow smoothly through the process of running a simulation. That's when you would mark it as severity 2. Now, severity 3 is the most common one. It's general how-to questions, or if you see a minor issue in the program, it's not really affecting your workflow too much, that's when you would mark it as severity 3. We often get cases where you're looking at the results of your analyses for simulation products and you notice that something's not looking right there. That's when you would want to mark it as severity 3 because it's not really affecting the workflow itself. It's actually interpreting the results there. Now with these severities, one thing to note is that once we receive the cases, there is the option for us to change this severity. So if we feel a case or a case is less severe than what was indicated by you, we might actually escalate it down. That doesn't mean that we won't not look at the case as critically, but what it is it just gives us a little bit more time to look into that case and resolve the issue for you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit more about what else to include in the case whenever you're describing it.
Thanks, Kristen. So there's a couple important pieces to creating a case. The first step is going to be the subject. So we want a clear statement here of what's going wrong. When I generate cases for customers that call in on the phone, I like to include, for mechanical, maybe what analysis type we're using, and then just a brief description of maybe what's going wrong. So it might be something like MES doesn't converge or something along those lines. It's just a short summary to kind of ease into the description where it's going to be really the meat and potatoes of describing the problem. And we're really looking for, the first one, what issue are you experiencing or what question you have. We're really trying to understand here, what's going wrong, what's the kind of problem statement. And then next we're looking for if it's a workflow issue, what steps we need to reproduce it, what steps are you taking to generate this problem to help us easily go back and try to reproduce that on our machine. And then for simulation, it's really important if you're saying the results are not matching your expectations, to include some of that background information. So if you have test data available that you're trying to verify against, or you have any supporting technical information like hand calcs or reference documentation, that's really going to help us to understand the problem more. Now we're all degreed engineers, but we may not have the specialty knowledge in specific areas. So that's where it's really important to include this kind of information. And then when generating a case, there's also the option to make case attachments. So there we could add a screenshot or a screencast showing what the actual issue is. So that's really nice when you have an error message or something and it may be a long string and you don't want to type that in. If you can just take a screenshot of that and include that, that's going to help as well. Now with simulation products, we all have different types of analysis files. For simulation mechanical, we have archive files or ACH files. For CFD, there's share files. For mold flow, there's study files. And for composite, they use a XML format. And you can attach those when you start generating that case. There's going to be a 100 megabyte limit there. So if you have a file that's bigger, I know with mechanical files, sometimes they get into the gigabyte range. When you generate the case, if in the description you want to say, I need an FTP site, we can activate an FTP site and we'll send out an automated email to you that'll allow you to upload files larger than 100 megabytes. And if there's any relevant log files that you see generated, so you may have a series of error messages generated in your log. If you want to include those as a case attachment as well, that'd be very much appreciated. And if you have multiple issues that you'd like us to investigate, I'd say always create those as separate cases so that we can investigate those independently. Sometimes we can delegate the work out to multiple colleagues on the team, so that instead of one person running with the issue and then going through each one of those issues, we can kind of tackle them as a group and get your issues resolved faster. So additional information that is helpful for us and can usually result in getting your case resolved faster is any modeling assumptions you've made about boundary conditions and things like that. Include those in the description, describing kind of your approach there. What version are you using? So if you're using, for example, simulation mechanical, if you're using 2014, are you using the service pack? If you're using 2015, are you using Service Pack 1, or are you on the product enhancement release? That information helps us kind of narrow down and make sure we're focusing on the right version to, if necessary, generate the same issue that you're reporting, or make sure that we generate results in the same format that you can read in. As I mentioned before, if you're generating error messages, if you can include screenshots, or Autodesk has an application called Screencast, which will actually let you go through the workflow, record the workflow, and voice over that so that you can describe any issues you're experiencing in more detail. So that, I believe, is available at autodesk.com/screencast. It's a free application for anyone to use, and that's really great for helping describe issues. And then if you've generated an error report, so you may see a window pop up if you've used any of our programs, and I'll say an unexpected error, and then I'll give you a field to enter your email address and enter comments and submit that to Autodesk. All that information is cataloged and reviewed, so if you have submitted that, if you want to include that you submitted an error report and what email address it was submitted with, we can actually pull up that information and see if there's any details that would let us determine if that issue's been addressed. For example, in a service pack or a hotfix, that'll give us the relevant information there. So one common thing, with talking with customers, everyone wants to, submit their feedback and product or feature requests or enhancement requests. So there's a couple different ways to go about that. For the simulation products, we've implemented what's called idea stations. So those are actually forums. So if you go to the Autodesk forums, you should see an option for all of the simulation products. And it's really an area monitored by the development teams for the specific products. And you can submit your idea for a feature. So I had somebody the other day ask about implementing scripting in simulation mechanical. And that would be where the appropriate place to submit that. Now, if you have other more detailed feedback about the products, we also have feedback forums on the Autodesk website. And that, again, is going to go right to the specific development team for those products. So if you go to autodesk.com, there should be a link for Contact Us, and then Feedback, and then Products. And you can select the appropriate simulation product and enter whatever comments you may have for that product. Okay, and I think Royce is going to take it from here.
Yep. So this is pretty much our last slide. There are some other resources that are available to you in terms of product training. Usually what I end up suggesting are people to look at the learning guides or within the online help. There's a lot of different training for the various products. Beyond that, there's working with the resellers to try to create some custom training to pick on your actual activation, or sorry, on your actual product. And in terms of activation licensing, there are forms you can go into and actually request your licensing to be generated for you. There's some links in here that you can pull up. In terms of self-help, sort of talked about that as well as Ready. You can sign in to the help and get some more information. There's also a link here for educational issues for students. Now, if you're ever looking for product release announcements, because one thing you've probably noticed, because all these products pretty much came in as acquired products, and we probably used to send you emails directly saying, hey, you know, next year's version is now available. That doesn't really happen as much anymore with Autodesk. But where you do get those announcements are within the product forums. So if you do periodically look, you know, you can see when releases come in, but also recognize that with the 2015 release, we do have a new kind of software update manager that's installed with the product, and that will also tell you when new releases are available. If all else fails and you're having problems and you just don't know where to start, you can always go to the Twitter handle at Autodesk Help, and our front desk folks, our business folks, they actually manage that Twitter feed and will definitely help you, you know, figure out where you need to be or what the issue is that you're trying to resolve. So at that point, that's really all we wanted to present. You know, something hopefully to entice some questions to come in. You know, what sort of roadblocks do you run into when you're trying to access our help, or when trying to reach out to us for support? Do you have issues actually calling in to us? You know, this is kind of an open forum for us to try to address those concerns, or even try to pass that sort of message back on up within Autodesk. Questions are quiet.
Okay. I have a comment. This is Marwan. I just want to mention that, you know, the online documentation for each one of those products, you can access that anywhere on the internet. It's not that you have to have the product installed on your computer, not just from the help button from within the product. If you open up any web browser and, you know, go, let's say you don't, you know, it doesn't have to be installed on that machine. It's just a web page, basically pages, I should say. So even if you're home, you know, you want to look up help just to educate yourself, you can do that.
Right. No, those are great. Did get a question from Gary Cook. He said, when files become too large to attach online, is there an FTP site to upload? Yes, there definitely is. And the key there is that within the case management system, we can actually
within our case management system, we can actually activate an FTP site. So it's something that has to be activated on Autodesk's end. It's not something that you as a customer can activate. So if you know at the get-go of the case that you're going to have a large file, you can just request it in the description, and as soon as we see that, we can just click a button and it'll send out an automated email. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes for that to come out, and it's going to include a username and password.
Right.
And we don't see that before the user see it either. We both have to wait for it to happen automatically.
And what I would suggest, you can use Microsoft Windows to connect to the FTP site, but I would actually suggest use a program called FileZilla, and you can copy and paste a link that comes in from that email notification that you get to quickly connect. I find this to be more robust than trying to use the Windows FTP protocol. And just remember, using Internet Explorer isn't advised when working the FTP sites. You want to just bring up a normal window for Windows and put your feed in here for the FTP link. Okay. Now we did bring up the knowledge network, and I just want to show that to you live. This is a newer system that we recently implemented to try to link in everything that we have within Autodesk within one search engine, basically. And one part of this end is actually articles that we create within product support. So you ask a question, we respond, we resolve your concern, issue, what have you, and then we actually write up a very general article about that and try to capture that knowledge so that in the future, people that have that same question can actually discover that resolution here. We don't talk about who you are, we don't talk about your products. It's very sort of open-ended questions. So for instance, if you want to do like CFD and you want to know the supported CAD, you could look for that. Or you had issues with accessing 360, maybe you're doing a scalar analysis, and you could do a search within the knowledge network. I like to just include AND in there. It allows it to search a little better, I think. And then you get some scalar tracking, transient, calculating coefficient of variance, and all sorts of different scalar type of questions that we have that come in. We have hundreds of articles, and our goal is actually to write an article for every case that we have. Doesn't always happen, but that does capture a lot of knowledge in here, and it's always growing and being maintained. Now, in terms of screencast, was recently released as a Autodesk full product. Before that, it was more of like a beta product. And if you go to /screencast, there we go, screencast.autodesk.com. That brings you to the website. And from here, you can download the product and use it. And you can then upload videos if you want to share them with the community. But really, probably what you would want to do is record your workflow, and then it gives you the option to just make the video available by direct link. And then maybe you'd include that link with your case if that makes sense. The application itself is very simple. If you open up the program, it looks something like this. It allows you to capture screens or full displays of different applications, record your microphone, and then upload it. The nice thing about this versus other screen capture tools is it also captures your keyboard events. So with simulation or any sort of technical program, there's a lot of the little shortcut keys on your keyboard that you'll probably be using, which isn't always captured when you use a normal screen capturing tool. So that's one nice aspect about this. Okay. For the videos that are posted live, right now, if we were to go to products, for instance, and go to more, expand this out and scroll down, I thought we'd actually see simulation there, but we don't. So let's change category to analysis, and then let's just search for CFD. And we have a few in here that I've actually posted. How to hide a plane, finding a surface. This is always a good one that people ask because it's not an easy workflow. And within this, once we click on it, it's just like any other program that will then allow you to watch the video, and it even tells you, for different products, what you're using and so forth. So in terms of finding a direct phone number for support, what I'm going to tell you is that because we post this to YouTube, I'm not just going to say the number out loud, but once you log into Subscription Center, assuming your contract manager, which is somebody at your office, has given you phone support access, you'll then see the phone number within the case management site. Once you have that phone number, you can call in, and the best thing to have, when you actually see that phone number right above that section, actually also gives you what's called an express service ID. Think of it as your personal number within Autodesk so we can easily find you. And when you call in, you type in that number, and at that point you'll be introduced to a phone tree. The phone tree is broken up into the industry fields within Autodesk. So simulation, confusingly enough, is actually under manufacturing, not engineering. So you'll click the button that represents manufacturing, and at that point it will then list simulation. You'll click that number, and at that point it will list CFD, mechanical mold flow, composites, and so forth. Okay. Good question, though. Okay, so that's really all the questions that are coming in. I want to thank everybody for joining today. And again, next week we will continue with our normal series, which is going into simulation CFD. And then we'll keep going week after week with all the different products. I want to, again, thank everyone for joining, and you have a great rest of your week.